The sun was just starting to set over the lake when it all began. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and the water reflected it like glass. It should have been one of those peaceful evenings where you sit on the dock with a drink in your hand, the kind of night you work all week for. But instead, I heard the unmistakable sound of heels clacking against wood, a sound that didn't belong out here. "Excuse me," a shrill voice cut across the lake air. "You can't be out here after 6 o'clock. HOA rules. This dock belongs to the association." I turned my head and saw her. Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, striding toward me with her arms crossed and a smug look plastered across her face. She was dressed like she was about to attend a board meeting, not approach a neighbor who was minding his own business. I laughed, thinking maybe she was joking. "This dock?" I asked, tapping the wood under my chair. "This dock that I built? With my money? On my property line?" Karen didn't flinch. "That's irrelevant. The board has voted to extend HOA authority over the shoreline. You're trespassing, effective immediately." Now, here's the thing about Karen. She was the type of person who thought printing a piece of paper at home suddenly made it law. She'd walk around with clipboards, notices, and warnings, waving them like she was judge, jury, and executioner of the entire neighborhood. Most people caved because they didn't want to deal with her drama. But me, I wasn't most people. "Karen," I said calmly, "this dock is legally mine. My deed includes 50 feet of waterfront. You can stomp, scream, and wave your clipboard all you want, but you can't change that." She smirked, like she was waiting for that exact answer. "Funny you say that," she replied, "because the board already voted. Starting tonight, any unauthorized use of the dock will result in fines and possible removal from the association." I stood up, set down my drink, and stepped closer. "Removal from the association? For sitting on my dock? Good luck explaining that one in court." Her eyes narrowed. "Enjoy your little rebellion while it lasts. By tomorrow morning, you'll wish you had just followed the rules." And with that, she spun on her heel and marched off, her heels echoing across the boards until she disappeared into the streetlights. I should have shrugged it off, but something in her voice, the way she said it, made me feel like this wasn't just another empty threat. This was a declaration of war. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. I walked outside with my coffee, expecting to enjoy the sunrise. Instead, I found a large laminated sign nailed to the post at the entrance of my dock. HOA property. No trespassing. Violators will be fined. It was official looking enough to scare off casual neighbors, but not me. My blood boiled. She had trespassed on my land to nail up a fake warning sign telling me I was trespassing. The audacity was almost impressive. I ripped the sign down and marched back up the hill to my cabin, already dialing the county office. Within minutes, I had someone on the line confirming what I already knew. The dock was mine, free and clear. The HOA had zero jurisdiction. But the official also said something else that made me pause. "Sir, if your HOA is posting unauthorized signs on your property, that could be considered harassment and vandalism. Keep a record." That was all I needed to hear. I set up my security cameras to cover every angle of the dock. If Karen or anyone else so much as sneezed near my property, I'd have proof, and I had a feeling proof would be needed soon. By afternoon, the drama escalated. Karen returned, this time dragging 2 HOA board members behind her like backup dancers. One of them carried a clipboard. The other carried a camera. Karen's voice carried across the lawn like she was narrating to an audience. "There he is," she announced. "Caught once again occupying association property without permission. Take pictures. We'll need evidence for the file." I didn't even stand up. I just held up my phone and started recording. "Smile, Karen. You're trespassing. Again. Want me to call the sheriff this time?" Her smug smile cracked for a split second, but then she pointed dramatically at my dock. "If you won't comply, we'll seize the dock and fine you until you can't afford to live here." I almost laughed. "Seize my dock? Do you hear yourself?" That's when I noticed something strange. The 2 board members weren't really looking at me. They were looking at the water. And that's when I saw it. Karen's shiny new boat, tied up just a few slips down. She had docked it partially in my waterline, like it was her trophy. The irony hit me like a freight train. She was accusing me of trespassing while her prized boat was literally sitting in my property line. I grinned. For the first time in this whole mess, I had leverage. That evening, I finally decided it was time to flip the script. Karen had spent weeks trying to bully me off my own dock with her fake rules and handwritten threats, but I wasn't about to let her keep winning. With my phone recording every second, the county deed tucked firmly under my arm, and a plan burning in my mind, I marched straight down to the waterline. The lake was quiet, except for the sound of Karen's prized boat bobbing gently against the dock, my dock. It gleamed in the fading sunlight, polished like a trophy, practically daring me to make a move. Neighbors were already gathering, pretending to water their lawns or leaning over porch rails as if the evening breeze had suddenly become the most interesting thing in the world. They knew the history between us. They knew Karen had pushed me too far, and they weren't about to miss the showdown. I untied the rope, gave a steady tug, and pulled the boat completely into my slip. My waterline, my legal property. Then I pulled out the finishing touch, a bold laminated sign I had prepared for just this moment. I nailed it right where everyone could see: private property, trespassing boats, subject to seizure. The ink was barely dry before I heard it. That shriek, high-pitched, furious, and unmistakable. Karen stormed down the hill like a hurricane, hair whipping, phone clutched in her hand as if it were a weapon. "That's my boat! You can't touch it! That's theft!" she screeched, already punching 911 into her screen. I didn't flinch. Instead, I calmly held up the deed for the world and my camera to see. "Actually, Karen," I said evenly, "your boat was tied up on my property. That makes it trespassing. And since you're such a fan of rules, I'm just enforcing mine. This vessel is now seized until you pay the proper storage fees." Her jaw dropped so far I thought it might hit the dock planks. "This is outrageous," she spat into the phone. 911, I want to report a theft in progress." The deputies showed up within minutes, lights flashing, radios crackling. Karen's face lit up with triumph as if she had already won. She pointed at me like a prosecutor at trial. "That's him. He stole my boat." But the tables turned fast. I handed the deputies the deed. I showed them the laminated sign. I even replayed the video which caught her earlier trespass in crystal clear detail. The deputies glanced at each other, unimpressed with Karen's theatrics. "Ma'am," one of them said firmly, "your boat was moored on his property. He has the right to remove it. What he's done here is legal." Karen's face turned crimson. She stammered, sputtered, pointing wildly as the neighbors snickered from their porches. For once, she wasn't in control. She wasn't the enforcer. She was the fool. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Next time you want to play games on my dock, remember this moment. Because the harder you push, the harder it's going to backfire." The deputies left without another word. The crowd of neighbors laughed outright and Karen stormed off empty-handed. Her boat now under my lock and key. That night, I sat on my dock with a cold drink in hand, watching the sun melt into the horizon. The lake had never looked so peaceful. For the first time since the war with Karen began, victory was mine, and it tasted sweeter than any sunset I'd ever seen.